Welcome to Channel AMEC, your insight to the Australian visa system. Good day everyone, my name is Carl Young, your online YouTube visa consultant. Are you interested about migrating to Australia? Why don't you consider to subscribe to my channel and turn on a little bell on the side, so once we have all the updates and news, you'll be the first one of getting all the insight. Today's video, I would like to take you to the insight of Global Talent Independent Program, which has been a prioritized category of visa and has been well known for its popularity, which the government of Australia had coined the idea back in late 2019 and has attracted a lot of attentions. Now obviously since then we have gone through a pandemic era which has already gone for about 2 years, and now it's time, let's go and revise how this GTI Global Talent Independent Program had been processed and had actually been impacted Australia. Or perhaps if you are a candidate of GTI, this will actually interest you, and how this processing time will actually affect your application. Let's have a look. And today I'm actually got into the freedom of information, which is the inside information that we can extract it from the Department of Immigration and dig out all the relevant info and number and stats. I think this is very vital because these numbers could actually mean what is coming up for the future and what is the success rate for you to actually review it. So the first one, they are actually a lot of these information, so I'm gonna this video will take some time, but I think it's very good for someone who is really interested about GTI. So the first GTI, the Freedom of Information, had actually questioned, please have the number of EOI submitted and approved by the GTI program, fintech and financial service without PhD. Now obviously if you are in the financial sector, not many people actually gain PhD to actually be in the financial sector. That's pretty normal. So what had happened, what's the response here? As we can see, there has been 1,455 submitted EOI and only 567 being invited. So that actually meant the success rate for the finance and fintech sector is only about 1/3, as you can see here. So this actually give you a figure. Now the reason I'm showing here is not to scare people, but we need those stats to actually verify and clarify for the success of the applicant, so you can actually know what sort of level you are, because we're talking about GTI. That's top of the pyramid, people. Okay, so we need to understand whether or not you are there or not. So you can see here there has been a lot of people interested and submitted with the expression of interest, but only 1/3 have been invited. So that actually gives a lot of information out there through the numbers. Now the second one is actually going through all different sectors. I think this is very good, and it's between the date of 1st of June, that's last year 2020, unto this year May. Obviously there hasn't been an updated information, as you notice. Since May, the pandemic hit, the virus hit Australia. So let's have a look. So 13,669 EOI has been submitted since this period, and in which sector. So we can see that Digitech still take the most of the number there, and this is the invite has been done, and out of this I've done a calculation, it's about 4,000, 3,000 something, about 4,000, and compare to that 13,669, as you can see, it's the same. It's about 1/3. So we will notice that 2/3 of the expression of interest, people put it in. I'm not too sure, but in my channel, I've always recommend people to actually, consult with a professional, consult with someone who is specialist in this area, because a lot of people trying to do it DIY, and I'll notice that these 2/3 of people hasn't been invited, are covering most of these DIY people there. Okay, and the following is actually the average day of since invites, so it's quite quick. Normally we experience the same thing. Once you get invited, it's quite quick. They respond, within 2 weeks they'll send you a request of documents, because nowadays the GTI EOI required to put in almost 90% of all the supporting evidence, otherwise they will not even consider at all. So that makes the processing time much quicker. So we think about 3 months, so that's very good. But the problem is here is between the time of you putting EOI and then you get invited. That is quite lengthy. We'll talk about that later, because we'll see some stats coming up. Now this is what's this, question 1. Okay, number of EOI submitted in EOI, so about the same period of time. So they were about, so between, this year, so the first half of the year almost, it's only about 3,692 EOI submitted. So there has been a change to the EOI form, which requires, again, what I just repeated, it needs to be decision ready, because the EOI needs 90% of everything. So even the nominator required to be there. So that decreases number of EOI compared to back in 2020, which is a good thing, because they actually qualify and filter a lot of unqualified GTI EOIs there. So that's a good thing. But another thing shows is that probably the requirement, the criteria for GTI nowadays might not meet what the quota has provided to the GTI. So it used to be 15,000. I think 15,000, but I don't think they were gonna get even half of it. They dropped it down to 7,000 to 8,000. But looking at this figure, if EOI is only about 3,600, so whole year probably are 7,000, and obviously not all the EOI will be invited, then obviously the GTI quota could that actually be met. Anyway, we'll check out. We have more stats to show. How many of them got invited were non-PhD? So they were only, global talent EOI submitted between those period was 695 were invited to apply, and 489 were non-PhD. So it's really focused on a lot of the key here is not getting a PhD, which is good, but having a PhD doesn't give you straight GTI as well, and not having a PhD doesn't even mean you doesn't meet GTI. I'm sorry about the thing, but if you want to know more about the complexity of GTI, I've done a huge series of GTI video. You might want to relate to them, but these figures are actually very good. And how many of them get invited to meet the fair work high income threat? So for my practice, I usually get people to have those threshold met. Otherwise, I won't even take those cases to submit a GTI application. So of these, all of that through that period, 695 were invited, so that's the same as that, and 573 were met. So about, that's almost like 80-90%. So that gives the feedback to you as well. Now the next one. Okay, what's this asking about? So GTI category EOI submitted status, processing status, and the proof and submitted proof average, how long it would take. So basically they don't tell you how long. That's the response of 2 and 3. Basically ask you to do your homework yourself, which is not good. And the EOI submitted, it's actually meeting what we have just saw, about 16,000 EOIs, because the last information was about half year. Now this one is covering almost a full year, because it's not full year, it's actually from 2019. As you can see, until April 2021, there's only 16,000, so not many. So what does this number tell us is that the government had aimed to promote global talent independence and wanting to have at least initially 15,000 per year. They cut out about half of it. Since 2020 and 21 for the quota given, but looks like it's not gonna even meet that quota. So is it the criteria too high, or is it because these talented people would rather choose somewhere else? Let's have a look. Okay, on average, the EOI submitted and assessed between 1st July 2019 and 2021 were about 98 days. Now, I think this is the period here is about almost 2 years. It's not really accurate because nowadays I've got EOI sitting there for about 3, 4, almost 6 months. I would say 6 months will be probably the average nowadays. But I do know back in 2019 it was pretty quick. It was pretty quick because back then they will accept all the PhD graduate from Australia and they will meet the requirements straight away. So for those people, it's not like no brainer. They don't even need to go through general skill migration. But now they have cut that off for the newly graduates. And those they back then they also accept master by honors, a research degree. So now you can't do that anymore. Okay, breakdown. Question: EOI submitted, EOI invited, and visa applicant granted. Okay, for the special Prime Minister's special envoy. Wow. Okay, I'm not too sure why they put this in. That means somebody's important enough that the Prime Minister himself will actually nominate him to be a GTI applicant. Let's see the answer to this. Now, since then, okay, until April 2021, again the figure matches exactly what we have just saw, and they were only 5,278 EOI invited, okay, since commencement. Now that's from 19th of April since commencement, and then 5,000. Okay, not too many. I thought that's gonna be a lot more there. And there are zero. No one has actually been endorsed by the Prime Minister special envoy. All right, should the law change to make it easier? Not too sure, but I think the figure will actually tell more, and obviously immigration itself and politicians will make their changes afterwards. Okay, next. EOI finalization with invited outcome. This is between July last year until Feb this year. So invited, there's only 1,447. So almost more than half year. That's about 8 to 9 months. Only 1,447 being invited. All of them are employed. So here's the key. If you think you're a GTI applicant or candidate and you're currently unemployed, here's the figure, here's the fact. If you're unemployed, they're not gonna invite you. Okay, so it's better that you show that you're employed, you have work references, and you get wage and salary tax documents, meaning that you've been employed, you get paid. Okay, and people get invited that met the FWHIT, so that's $158,500 per annum. Okay, so that's very important. I always tell all my clients I actually advise to do that. So between that figure and that figure, well, obviously that's more than half. So make sure you have that met that requirement. Otherwise, it's gonna be very hard. Next, okay, this is a little bit. I'm not too sure why this officer putting things in writing so small and tiny. Let's see if I can magnify that bit more. Okay, what does this say? Okay, this is actually saying where is a number of EOI submitted in individual GTI program between last year July and January this year, and the breakdown monthly, blah blah blah. Okay, so how many people per month? That's basically what we are looking at here. So in July there's 1,000. There's pretty constant. Every month is about 1,000. 2021, I think that's because the pandemic. But you can see the invitation rate is only about 1/3. Again, that's the key point here. That's what I'm trying to tell everybody. Look, I've done a lot of video and telling everybody that the reason I'm doing these video on the YouTube channel is because wanting things to be more transparent. You know, don't just read and watch or something and goes, oh, that's pretty easy, let's do it, let's put it in EOI. and you end up with no invitation and no response, because you can see the ratio here. It's even lower than 1/3. It's probably 1/4. Only quarter of people being invited. So you gotta watch out. It's not that easy. It's not that easy as it seems. Recently, I've noticed that there has been global talent officers around the world promoting global talent program, but with the legality of the criteria, it's not that easy. It may seem easy, but a lot of things required to be done professionally. So make sure you actually find a professional to actually help you out. Otherwise, you probably end up like not getting invited here. That's the figure showing. Okay, now this one is the same, very tiny wording, but let me read them out. It's about the same thing as well. So how many GTI on hand? There's about 1,149. And how many EOIs there? 7,000. Look at that. It's only 4,253 being invited down here with the figure there. So again, it's less, very easy number to understand. It's less than half. So about 1/3. That's the ratio there. And 1/3, what does that tell you? If you wanted to compete and be a candidate of GTI and be invited, you gotta be very bright. You gotta brush off a lot of supporting evidence to show that you are good enough to actually be invited as well. Now there's this one's what's it's talking about. Okay, so the request I would like to ask about EOI Global Talent Independent. Each target sector have been submitted since July 2020. So they were talking about the new financial year, which is 2020 to 2021. So recently, and with each target sector and country of origin, and blah blah blah. So let's have a look at these table. I think it will be very interesting. Let me magnify that a little bit. Okay, so first of all, how many EOI in which target sector? So so this is dissected into different timing there. So they were counted EOI from 1st July to 31. I'm not too sure if they got that right, but 31 December 2020. So that's the first half of 2020-21 financial year, and this is from January until recently. Okay, so the big changes, you can see the numbers. They used to be a lot, and now they dropped down to 14, 10, 31, 18, and only 196 EOIs. What happened there? Now, basically, I can tell that line there between last year and this year is the change of the expression of interest form. I have noticed and stressed enough, the EOI for GTI now is a decision-ready EOI. If you don't have those supporting evidence to actually be able to attach onto the expression of interest, you will fail. And that's why, and that's the change there, and make it much harder. So you gotta make sure, because back then in 2020, you don't even need to show any supporting evidence. All you need to do is go in there and you're just punching everything into the field, and done. You can actually submit anything. So you can see a huge number, 7,273, and in 2021 it dropped down to less than 200. Okay, now the second question I would like to ask about number of EOI and GTI granted since. So since July 2020, so that's for this financial year. So total is only 2,044. Now that is way less than the targeted quota put in for GTI for the whole year. I think it was, from my memory, it was 7,000 to 8,000, or about 9,000. But look, this is way more less. This is only 2,044. Okay. Now the people from countries. So we can see from Bangladesh this is 166. From China 133, and then we moving down, Iran 277, India 174, Germany 32, Italy 18. It's a big list. New Zealand, I'm not sure one New Zealander wanted to do GTI. Anyway, 7 there. Pakistan 51. Sri Lanka 43, United Kingdom 103, Taiwan there's 10, Sweden there's 5, United States 61. Wow, interesting. I thought these techie people would rather stay in USA for a better salary and payment, but I think they rather choose somewhere better to live. Okay, so that's about that. And finally, the last figure, number of each occupation lodge and grant refused in GTI program from 1st July 2020. Okay, so until now, you can see there's not many, okay, not many lodged, granted. So again, this actually shows the figure actually shows information at the back end that, as I said, there's only about 1/3. Now obviously they have done a big changes to the system where the EOI form required to be decision ready with all the supporting evidence to be attached, so that will ultimately drop a lot of EOI down and resulted with the GTI program not really meeting its meaning and not really meeting its goal as how it was planned at the beginning of this whole global talent independent, and with the new launched global Australia website as well. So how would this actually evolve in the future? Anyway, my thinking is obviously it's good that they have done a very good expression of interest form with upgraded to actually be a decision ready, so that not a lot of expression of interest have been dumped in there to actually affect the processing time. But then I think it's a timing that, you know, if you are interested about GTI, you really need to stick with someone who is professional enough to handle your matter. Otherwise you'll be end up with those 2/3 of people putting EOI in and never got any response from the Immigration of Australia. Anyhow, should you have more question, query, more than welcome to leave a comment right down below, and I'll see you next video. Goodbye.